Come a little closer. Settle in. I'm glad you're here because tonight we're going to step into the frozen past and try to solve one of the most chilling and enduring mysteries of the 20th century, the Dyatlov Pass incident. Our story begins in the winter of 1959, deep in the remote Ural Mountains of the Soviet Union. 9 university students, all of them expert hikers and skiers, set out on a grueling expedition. They were young, full of life, and perfectly prepared for the brutal conditions ahead. They were never seen alive again. When a search party finally found their last campsite on the slopes of Kholat Syakhl, a name that, chillingly, translates to Dead Mountain, they found the first piece of an impossible puzzle. Their tent was there, half swallowed by the snow, but it had been sliced open from the inside. As if something inside that tent had terrified them so much, they couldn't even spare a second to untie the flap. They had to cut their way out and run for their lives, and run they did. Investigators found 9 sets of footprints trailing away from the camp, down the desolate, snowy slope. But here's where it gets truly bizarre. Many of those footprints belonged to bare feet, or feet with just a single sock. They had fled their only shelter into a night that was 30 degrees below zero, practically naked. What could possibly be so terrifying that seems like the better option? The bodies were found scattered. The first 2, discovered near the embers of a makeshift fire, had died of hypothermia. Tragic, but it made a grim kind of sense. But the others told a different story entirely. Further on, in a deep ravine, they found the remaining 4, and their injuries were horrifying. One had a shattered skull. 2 others had their ribs crushed with a force so immense, a doctor later said it was like being hit by a car. And yet, there were no external wounds, no bruises, no cuts, nothing on their skin to even suggest a fall or a fight. It was as if they had been squeezed by some colossal, invisible force. And to make things even more disturbing, one of the women was missing her tongue. So let's recap. We have a team of seasoned experts who slash their way out of a perfectly good tent, run half-dressed into a frozen hellscape, and suffer catastrophic internal injuries, with no signs of a struggle. That is the mystery of Dyatlov Pass. Naturally, in the 60 years since, people have been desperately trying to find an explanation. But the most popular natural theories, well, when you really look at them, they just fall apart. Let's start with the official explanation, an avalanche. It's what the Russian government is pushing now, but it's riddled with holes. For one, the search party's own photos show the tent wasn't buried. You could still see the footprints leading away from it. Footprints an avalanche would have instantly erased. The slope itself wasn't steep enough for a major slide, and these hikers were experts. They would never have made camp in a high-risk zone. And most importantly, avalanche victims get crushed. They have bruises. They have external trauma. They don't have the bizarre internal-only injuries found on the Dyatlov group. Okay, so what about something more exotic? Infrasound, maybe. It's this fascinating idea that certain wind conditions can create a sound so low frequency humans can't hear it, but they can feel it, and it can supposedly cause intense, irrational panic. Maybe it drove them mad, made them tear open the tent and flee into the night. It's a compelling idea, but it has one huge problem. Infrasound can't break your bones. It doesn't explain trauma on the level of a car crash. And it certainly doesn't explain the final baffling piece of evidence. Some of their clothes were radioactive. So if it wasn't an avalanche, and it wasn't some freak wind, what was it? To answer that, we have to look at what else was happening in the sky that night. The lead investigator on the case, a man named Lev Ivanov, was pressured to close it, and fast. But years later, he broke his silence. He admitted that he and multiple other eyewitnesses, including a whole other hiking group 50 kilometers away, all reported seeing the same thing: strange glowing spheres moving silently across the night sky. And these reports? They were systematically censored, wiped from the official file. Now why? Why would the Soviet government want to cover up reports of strange lights in the sky? Because of where this happened. The Ural Mountains in 1959 weren't just a wilderness. They were the secret beating heart of the Soviet military-industrial complex. This was the height of the Cold War. The area was teeming with secret military sites, missile test ranges, and closed cities dedicated to building the Soviet nuclear bomb. These hikers weren't just in the middle of nowhere. They were in the middle of the Kremlin's secret laboratory. And this brings us to the one explanation that seems to fit every bizarre, contradictory fact. The Dyatlov group didn't run from a Yeti or a UFO. They stumbled upon a secret Soviet weapons test. Think about it. Those glowing spheres in the sky? A perfect description of a nighttime rocket launch. Maybe a parachute flare test. Now, let's go back to those injuries. Massive internal trauma, no external wounds. What kind of weapon does that? A pressure weapon, something like a thermobaric bomb. It releases a cloud of fuel and ignites it, creating a massive, crushing blast wave. An overpressure wave that ruptures organs and shatters bone from the inside out. Precisely the injuries they found. The blast, the terrifying sound. It would explain the panicked flight. It would explain everything. Or maybe it was a failed missile test. A rocket that went off course, breaking up overhead, showering the area with toxic, radioactive fuel. That would explain the radiation on the clothes. Maybe it was a horrifying combination of the two. When you look at it through that lens, the puzzle pieces don't just fit. They snap into place. The sudden panic, the flight from the tent, the strange lights, the radiation, and those impossible injuries. They all point to one terrible conclusion. The hikers were in the wrong place at the absolute worst time. They saw something they were never meant to see, and they became collateral damage in a secret war. The final classified report concluded the hikers died from a compelling natural force. It's a phrase so vague, it's almost an admission, isn't it? A force they couldn't, or more likely wouldn't, name. The entire area was sealed off for years. The files were locked away. The eyewitness reports of glowing spheres were buried. The Dyatlov Pass incident isn't an unsolvable mystery. It was probably solved from the very beginning. The real mystery isn't what happened on that frozen mountain. It's the lengths a powerful government will go to bury its secrets. A human tragedy, born not from something supernatural, but from the all-too-human darkness of the Cold War.